Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Hey, friend. I am coming at you feeling a little weird today. Can't tell if I'm sick. I don't believe in being sick, so I'm just going to say not sick. That's how it works, right? And actually, kind of not a surprise that that's where I'm starting this one off with. And this episode is called Anything by Everything or something along those terms. Have you realized that, like, when I tell you what the title of the episode is going to be, it's always a little bit different? That's because I play with a little AI to figure out what's going on the YouTube or the Spotify or the podcast title, because I like my podcast to be a little weird, in case you haven't figured that out. But the YouTube doesn't like the weird. So I want people to eventually be able to find it, I think. Maybe still playing with that one as well. And all of this, again, ties directly into what I'm talking about today. I was in a yoga class just the other week, and the teacher repeated a phrase I think we're all very familiar with. And it's something I have personally been rallying against for a long time, because I'm that kind of dickhead that if everybody does something, I just have to do the other. I've cut off my nose to spite my face a million different times. One of my favorite stories of this is when I was first starting in music. This is the late 90s, and Radiohead was touring OK Computer, and I was working with a bunch of fucking hippies. And I'm not, not so into the jam band scene. I can appreciate the music for sure. I grew up listening to it, which might have something to do with it. But I was like super punks rock, and I was like, I'm going to go listen to a bunch of people screaming into microphones, standing on a cement slab in somebody's garage with their speakers turned up so loud that my ears bleed. I don't want your AAA passes to Red Rocks to hang out backstage, because that's dumb since everybody's doing it. One of my biggest life regrets, everybody. But if that's as bad as it gets, as David White said, you're not really living if you don't have any regrets. And as per usual, I digress. This is like the 5th time I've recorded this, by the way. The internet connectivity here is still a little lackluster after the disaster. So thank you for bearing with me. I know what you're asking. What did the yoga teacher say in class, BC? Well, you've heard it. You might have even said it. You've probably reposted it. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I used to believe in this, not just because the internet reiterated it and told me to, but when I first heard this a long, long time ago, this would have been the 2000s, and we'll get into the origin story and all the things. But when I first heard this, I thought, that makes sense to me. I am someone who is kind of hardwired for consistency. I make decisions pretty easily, and then I kind of have to stick to it to like prove my point. And somewhere along the lines, I may or may not continue to even agree with myself, but I just kind of keep going. And therefore, simplifying my experience and my commitment by simply saying, you just do one thing all the time, everywhere, like clicked in my brain. That made a lot of sense for me. And it worked kind of until it didn't, right? And I realized, I am not like the same person who shows up, say, for my family as I am for my friends. I am 100% not the same person at work as I am when I'm out and about or in nature or just chillaxing, right? And so I recognized that we do shift in context and we do code change depending on what game we're playing or what we're trying to achieve. And so we shapeshift. And how you do anything is how you do everything. It's the kind of quote that sounds profound, like something your yoga teacher says before a really challenging flow, or your business coach might put on a slide deck. And I think in this moment, in this most recent yoga class that I was taking, it kind of hit me what this phrase really means to me and why. And it was interesting timing as well, because there are no coincidences. So today I want to break it down, not just from like a spiritual yogi perspective or from like a business coach motivational lens, but from the perspective of neuroscience and behavioral psychology and also leadership strategy, a little part operations and a little part Oracle. Let's get into it. Let's talk about where this came from. Then we're going to get into the sort of debatable history I've had with this particular phrase. And then obviously, as I love to do, give you some ways to play with it, because I do think we're all wired differently. And I think what makes me successful is going to be different than what makes you successful. And there is something to the simplicity of this and to the recognition and 100% to the intention that we bring when we're talking about something like this, and more importantly, when we are living something like this, right? So why does it matter? Why should the way we do anything be the way we do everything? Or why isn't that true? So the origin story, once again, debatable. T. Harv Eker, who was like one of those OG original gangster executive coaches. He is an author. He's a businessman. He's a motivational speaker. That's actually where a lot of them started out. This is, I think he wrote the book that coined the term, or at least that he claimed in, I think, like 2003. The internet credited T. Harv Eker with this statement, but Zen Buddhism has a phrase: the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Navy SEAL training says, under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. Stoicism, another philosophical framework, says excellence is a habit, not an act. So this is something we've said over and over and over again, but in different ways. And again, I think that that's really useful when you understand how you're wired and what motivates you. And if it's the simplicity of it, go with that. If it's the permission to actually give yourself a different character and therefore a different intention in different contexts, that also plays. This isn't just an example of this like hustle culture and like bro corporate speak. It's a tidy line implying that discipline, detail, and diligence can be used as your universal default or your inevitable downfall. This is where we're going to edit to a new section where you will see me, if you're watching, in a slightly different context, because we're kind of Frankensteining this episode. So hold, please. Okay. So why do I obviously have to disagree with fucking everything just to keep me on my own toes, but to also prove some potentially non-existent point? Hear me out though, because this one, I actually felt like I had a real bone to pick. People have context-dependent performance. Research from Columbia University shows that even high performers show variability across tasks based on stakes, social context, and self-concept. So what does that mean? The highest of performers, those who are invested in optimizing their performance, aka the ones who care about how they show up, are aware of their surroundings, of what's at stake, what's invested, what are the risks, of who's in the room, and of how they're feeling. And they're going to adjust accordingly. And I'm going to go, and they should, right? The whole point is to be successful. They're gauging what needs to happen in order to achieve that and adjusting. In 2015, a study on behavioral inconsistency revealed that executive function, emotional regulation, and even moral decision-making shifts depending on physical states like fatigue, hunger, or stress. So this was from the Journal of Experimental Psychology. That one probably goes a little without saying, and also let's dig a bit deeper, because my interpretation is that, sure, if you're hungry, if you're tired, if you're stressed out, if you're jet lagged, if you just got into a fight with somebody, it can affect your performance, right? Your success. And also we have this ability, we have the agency to kind of go, no, like I'm going to recognize these things and I'm going to compensate for it. I'm going to do my best to overcome that awareness, that resistance, that challenge, that doubt, whatever it might be. Again, we are changing our behavior. We are not just showing up the same all of the time. We're going to show up in almost unpredictable ways. It's then how we choose to respond to that, right? So are you the same person brushing your teeth at 11 p.m. as you are pitching investors at 11 a.m.? I mean, I hope not. We're not robots. I think we're energetic beings pulsing along, sometimes erratically, often unpredictably. So what looks like inconsistency might just be nervous system regulation, right? While I was shaking in strain and doubt, and I'm sure you've all been there where you're physically asked to hold a particular position and your body's like, I don't think I can do this. I realized, I think I get this quote, because there are patterns. Everything I just shared, the showing up stressed or being tired or recognizing like, who do I need to be in this moment, or who am I expected to be in this room? It's all about patterns. It's about the energetic signature you bring into everything you touch. And y'all, I know you've heard me say a million times, it's the energy behind the action. While your behavior might change task to task or space to space, what stays consistent is who you are being underneath it all. If you collapse under pressure in a relationship, you probably do the same thing when something flops at work. If you overfunction for others to feel safe, that will show up in your pricing, your parenting, your business partnerships. If your nervous system is stuck in fawn or freeze, you'll hustle for worth and desperately try to prove your value in any room and shut down in ones where you don't feel that's being received. So no, how you do anything isn't how you do everything, but how you be in anything resonates through everything. Why are we talking about this? If you want to shift your everything, right? If how you be in anything resonates through everything, that suggests that how you be affects, potentially impacts, and dare I say creates your everything. I'm assuming there's some existing patterns in your life, in your day-to-day, in your work, in your relationships, and everything that you value and think is important. And the way that you engage with those things may or may not be obvious to you, right? It might be more subconscious than conscious. This is where we can get curious and go, what's the identity? What's the character I'm performing here? If I show up differently in different rooms or for different people, who am I? Why am I? What safety am I trading for success? And this is, I think, where it becomes a lot less superficial. Like, I want to show up powerfully. Let's go. But then recognizing when you're talking to someone who you perceive as being more powerful than you, or potentially having the ability to negatively affect your success, you might notice a slightly different, and it might be really slight. Even just body language, even the tone of your voice, how often you're blinking. These are all actual cues about what's happening in here. And I'm gesturing towards my heart for those of you listening. But that's what I mean when I say how you be resonates through everything. There's no judgment here. You're not doing it right or wrong. It's just getting your attention to notice the most subtle of cues, of energetic embodiments, of ways that your physical being is actually sharing what's happening energetically. The behavior you call quote unquote strategy might just be survival. And so for anybody who experiences people pleasing, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of us are running a code in the background. There's a survival app that is automatically turned on the second you boot up for the day. And you're avoiding disappointing others or creating stress at all costs because you learned just how unsafe that was a long time ago. And I don't even want to say you, I will find myself manipulating situations and manipulating people without any fucking conscious awareness that I'm doing it at all. I'm explaining things in a way that I think will allow everyone to be more successful. Feels really fucking good, right? Feels positive. Like, how could that possibly be manipulation or negative? I'm framing my own story, my own desires, the way I want things to go in a way that I know is going to convince everybody else to do what I want them to do. Thanks, Ma. So once you start tuning into these frequencies, right? Once you start regulating your energy, instead of controlling your outcomes and pointing at me, the how changes everywhere. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say kind of that difference between like level 4 and level 5 energy. Go watch the Energy Leadership Index if you don't know what that means. But there's just a big difference between wanting everyone to be successful and being deeply altruistically connected and trusting everyone is going to be successful. And so when you walk into a space and there is any doubt, and it might just show up like, hey, I don't know what time we're leaving today. I don't know who's bringing what and who's responsible for what. So I'm going to move into like hustle mode, right? And I'm going to take care of everything and I'll do it all. I'll just gather everything myself rather than creating any waves or asking any questions or being being the squeaky wheel against Grace. I'm just going to like fix these problems. That actually comes from a place of doubt, a need to control so that we can feel safe by creating our own certainty. And that's all well and good, but everybody else feels that. And you can't actually control how they're going to interpret that. And for the most part, they can't either. And again, a lot of this is just happening so deep under the surface. We don't even know that the reason I'm annoyed by the fact you're packing a lunch for me is not because I think you are being motherly, for lack of a better term, right? It's because I feel intrinsically somewhere you don't think I can take care of myself. And that's insulting, right? That's the difference. That's the doubt. You think, I'll just get everything together. This is going to be fantastic. Again, I should be saying me. I should not be saying you. I think I'm just going to get everything prepared so that it's easier for everybody. But what I'm doing is making it easier for myself because I don't trust that everybody else is going to get ready on my timeline. And that's fucking annoying. These are these subtle whispers of energetic cues that I'm talking about. And this is the thing that's happening. This is how we're all communicating with each other all of the time. This is how we're pulsing through both patterned and erratic and unpredictably. And that's what's affecting everything. So the next time someone throws this line at you, how you do anything is how you do everything. Smile and nod. It might be an opportunity for you to ask, who am I being right now? This is that blueprint for success, right? And for some of us, for me specifically, when I can clarify my intention, that informs the who, which creates the how. And what I realized in that yoga class, in this moment, there's a few things I'm working on and trying to create, right? And I am bringing that intention to everything, everywhere, every time. And it was actually profound because this thing I had rallied against, this phrasing, right? This how you show up for everything is how you show up for anything, or vice versa, is true at a very, very, very deep fundamental level. And that makes things very simple for me. That's my definition of optimization, is I don't have to think about it. I don't have to try. It just happens. And so based on my current trajectory and where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to achieve, there's one thing I'm focusing on, and I am bringing that to every single thing that I do. I'm starting with that before every episode I record, before every engagement I have, before every fucking yoga class that I go to, right? So what I'd like to leave you with is my usual, how can you apply this? How can you really play with this so that you can understand how you're wired? And it might be really useful for you to play a different character in your different contexts. And that can feel incredibly fun and inspiring for people. It's always about, does this feel expansive? Does this feel open? Does this feel like it's inviting me to grow and experience? Or does this feel contractive? Do I feel like I'm having to be something I'm not? Or, do I feel like I might be manipulating everything and everyone around me right now? So let's start with if you're feeling stuck, right? I think that's where this trope, this phrasing, I shouldn't say trope, right? We just established I kind of agree with it. The simplification, optimization, performance-based success, achievement, right? So we look to these oversimplified, overused phrases to give us a launch pad so that we can leap up to wherever it is we're trying to go. So if you're feeling stuck or lazy, perhaps what you're doing is sort of looping in the liminal. And if anything feels inconsistent or chaotic or uninspired, it's not because you can't make this decision or you can't show up consistently. Consistently is at least in America, we really, really pedestalize being consistent. And again, I think we're all wired differently. For a very few group of us, consistency is the way. For most people in my experience, it is really tuning in to those contexts and to where you're at in this moment and sort of marrying the two to understand, how do I want to show up? Now that answer might be very consistent, but the how might mean I need to hydrate. I need to take a shower. I need to take a nap. I need to go for a walk outside really quick. I need to do some quick, fast, deep, slow breaths, some pranayama. Like, those are the tools in order to get you to that desired state of being to then influence your everything. When you're in an in-between, when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling, again, uninspired, and it could actually be defined as a lot worse, I suggest you play with this idea of being between. So between the identities, between the contexts, between these systems, these ways of thinking and doing, these patterns, because what used to work for you just isn't working right now. So, you might notice I have a lot of fun names for things, or at least I think they're fun. Name your liminal loop. Name this in between. Name the what was and what's becoming, recognizing you're in between those two, the what is, right? And if it is cyclical, if this is a pattern, perhaps recognizing I'm in the in between because something is ending and something is beginning, and recognition of that will allow that kind of alchemical transformation. What belief is keeping you attached to an end? What energy is keeping something alive that actually might just need to go, might need to die, right? You can ritualize this threshold. So, this can be as simple as at the beginning and ending of every day. A lot of people that I work with find themselves absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. And they're holding on to a lot of the things that happened that day or that week or the last month. By creating a system, a ritual to end your day and release everything that happened, you might be surprised at how well you sleep that night or how rested you feel when you wake in the morning. And this can be really simple, like lighting a candle and thinking about everything that happened. And as you blow the candle out, you have a common phrasing, let sleeping dogs lie, whatever you want it to be. I close this loop. I end any of these cyclical patterns here and now. Blow the candle out. It can be longer than that. I personally, I like to shower at night. And so I will rinse myself off and I imagine my hands rinsing off like all of the gunk, all of the energy, everything I've probably absorbed and picked up purposefully or inadvertently throughout my day. If something's occurred, I kind of imagine myself washing that off as well. And then I watch it all go and swirl around in the drain until it's drained away. And I use my imagination to kind of imagine it almost being like black gunk, like an oil slick. And I let my imagination play that all the way through until it's gone. That's my ritual. I'd love to hear what your ritual is. And then this is used in a lot of different disciplines, but an anchor I always think about Inception, that movie where they keep like a little like sort of talisman in their pocket to remind them like this is a dream. It is a trick for lucid dreaming for sure, to have something that you take with you to help you remember that I am dreaming right now. But an anchor behavior that reminds you of who you're becoming, not who you've been. So like that can be an imaginal technique. So after doing this ritual of releasing everything, I like to do this, play through the perfect day for the next day as I'm going to sleep. So I just imagine myself waking up and having the perfect day, whatever that might look like. I had a client who bought herself a really kind of like bling-tastic piece of jewelry, and she wore it on her middle finger to kind of remind her, and I'm making a fist right now, like you're strong, you're powerful, you can do anything. And you are protected. Like you can protect yourself. Like for her, it was like literally making a fist. Again, whatever it is you want. But I like this idea of recognizing, oh, things aren't working. That's literally why they're not working. If I feel stuck, I'm just going to recognize I'm in the in-between. I'm going to name whatever that is. I'm going to ritualize releasing what is now done. And I'm going to anchor into what I am creating and becoming. This isn't about being bad at finishing. I wrote a blog years ago called Happy Endings, which that's not what I'm talking about, friend. And we've over dramatized unhappy endings. And I think a lot of us kind of white knuckle the end of something because we don't want it to end, or worse, it desperately needs to end, but we're so comfortable with the familiar, we won't let it go. And again, it can be as simple as just a bad day, or it can be something much, much more significant in your life. Recognize if you're a bad finisher, that might be the name of your liminal loop, and become someone who no longer starts the same way. Okay, so this one's for me, but thank you for listening. Control is a trauma response, not a personality type. Perfectionism isn't an identity trait. It is a nervous system strategy. So when you're obsessing over the how in one space, like business or your morning routine, it's likely compensating for a deeper lack of safety somewhere else. So identify your control portal, the micro habit or process you overmanage. You heard me explain it earlier in the episode. I will literally manipulate everything around me so that everyone gets to be successful. That feels so good to me. But what I'm saying is I don't believe in you. And they feel that, and it's insulting. And also, like, I don't want to be that person. I have to continually check myself. Am I staying within my realm of control, aka what I need and what I can affect, and allowing others to do the same? Instead of tightening your grip, intentionally loosen it and give yourself a timeline for this, because you will feel unsafe. So ask yourself, could I let my emails pile up for the rest of the day? Could I let the laundry pile up for the rest of the week? Can I feel safe focusing on the biggest priority I've been avoiding or disassociating from for the next hour? And let's just test it and check in with yourself. If you start to feel panicky or your brain makes up a bunch of excuses, shorten the time frame. And 5 minutes is enough when you're starting something very daunting. That's how you teach yourself, I will keep you safe no matter what. And then just notice, like I said, you will panic and it will be strange, because why the fuck should emails make you panic? But we've all played through this experiment. It's done, it's old. And I find myself opening up my email account and checking it so subconsciously, unconsciously, that like makes me laugh at this point. And so I program in kind of specific challenges with things like that. And both ways. Sometimes I completely disassociate and won't look at my email for 3 days, right? So I have to kind of recognize, for me, where do I need to actually check in? And how can I feel safe in doing that? And where do I need to give myself permission to check out and also feel safe? You don't need more discipline. You need more capacity to hold chaos without losing yourself. How do you do that? You create this internal sense of safety. So again, identify your control portal, intentionally loosen it for a specific time frame, and then notice how you react to that. Lastly, and this is where we kind of bring it all home, right? Because how you show up how you be in anything affects everything. Sounds like alignment, right? If alignment means this pull thread, this one consistency, this theme that you can draw from every single thing, most of us might identify that as ease or clarity or confidence. But real alignment, again, your definition of alignment, probably feels like a frequency, a familiar wave, a familiar pattern, a familiar cue in your body. And it might feel sharp, like it could be edgy. Maybe close your eyes for a minute, hit pause and think about it. What does that being in everything actually feel like to you? As I say this out loud, to me, it's like this expectation, this like sitting on the edge of my seat, this I don't know what's going to happen next. And that is a little uncomfortable. So how do we play this through? How do we apply this to our day to day? Pick an area where you keep saying, I don't know what to do, and ask, if I did know, and it's uncomfortable, potentially even scary, what would that action, behavior, thought, what would that be, right? I don't know what to do. If I did know and it scared me, what would that be? And then try one step in that direction. I literally did this yesterday. I had an emo day yesterday, and I was recognizing a pattern in my life that I've not noticed before. But what I am noticing it is in everybody else around me, not everybody, but in this specific group of people around me. And I thought, man, if I keep seeing that in them, I have to assume that's my reflection. There's no way these 5 people who couldn't be more different and from more unexpected places are all showing me the exact same thing, unless it's me. They're literally just reflecting it at me, right? And that was a really uncomfortable, scary admission to make. And what I think it's going to take in order to address that pattern feels even worse. So I had to kind of scale it back and go, okay, I'm going to look at that for an hour in the morning, every day for the next week. And I might just stare at my computer for that hour. I don't know what's going to happen in it. Immediately, I started to feel better. Immediately, things started to unlock. And I found more and more capacity to actually address what, at this point now, a full 24 hours later, feels almost harmless. Like it, when I first looked at that skeleton in the closet, it was a big, scary monster. Now it feels like kind of a ridiculous little like Halloween costume. I wasn't looking for comfort. I wasn't looking for a way out. I was looking for congruence. I was looking for alignment. I was looking for this theme, this pull thread, so that I could stitch it all up. We're not looking for relief. We're looking for that revelation, that revelatory moment where you go, oh, this makes sense now. And again, that might not feel good, but it feels expansive. It opens you up. So yeah, how you do anything isn't always how you do everything, but how you be in anything has a ripple effect across everything. When you shift the energy beneath your actions, the survival patterns, the nervous system default settings, the character performances, that's when the how becomes aligned by design. That's when your systems support your soul. Next time you judge yourself for not being consistent, ask, am I repeating a past version of me or rehearsing the future I actually want? Your anything is the clue. Your everything, that's the masterpiece. That's your magnum opus. That's you, my friend. I think we took this one home, right? I think the resource that I created 2 episodes ago, the Apocalypse Survival Guide, talks a lot about this, as does the Thrival workbook. They're interesting nervous system explorations, because in times of great uncertainty, you might be noticing some default responses you thought you'd either left by the wayside long ago, or you just haven't experienced before. I am certainly noticing that my day-to-day is that energetic response is far less predictable, way more emo, but it takes much more awareness from me, much more attention and intention to shift. And also permission. I had wanted to record this yesterday, but like I said, it was just not the day. And an older version of me would have never given myself permission for that because I didn't trust that it would all work out. So, baby steps, my friend. In the eye of the storm, you don't need a better to-do list. You just need a safe way to be. So until the next time, my friend, stay wild, stay wise, keep building. Thank you for being here.